Hey guys, what's up? And today I'm going to do a review of Eminem's Revival. Yes, it's been a very long time, and Revival is on the list of my top 15 worst albums of 2017. So finally I get to review this album. This is the latest album from Eminem, aka Marshall Mathers, an influential and legendary rapper from Detroit, USA. And for the start of his career, it's amazing. From Slim Shady LP, which is very slick and goofy, to some of the most classic rap albums ever, such as Marshall Mathers LP and The Eminem Show. And then he kind of goes downhill with the very gross Encore, and then the very idiotic and drab Relapse. And then on the year 2010, he kind of took a different approach and direction towards this rap game with the very poppy and, I guess, corny recovery. But on the year 2012, he kind of perfected this new pop sound and owned the skill to make good pop rap music on Marshall Mathers LP2, which I'm actually surprisingly enjoying. Watch my latest review of MMLP2. I gave it a strong 7 out of 10. But he is back in the year 2017 with Revival, which is basically a sequel to Relapse and Recovery, which are two of the not the worst Eminem albums, to be honest. Encore is way worse, but I guess two of the more underwhelming Eminem albums. So going into this album, I didn't expect much, and as it turns out, this album surprised me. Not at how good it is, as how bad it is. Like, this is way worse than I have expected. This album is laced with formulaic cliché beats, seasoned with generic trash forced hooks, and occasionally, why am I stuttering? Occasionally there are a few playful guitar tracks, but it just turns out to be corny and cheesy, and Eminem's flow and performance on this entire album is very rough and staccato, which becomes very awkward very quickly. The album starts off with Walk on Water, which is basically the first lead-up single to this album, and wow, this track is really underwhelming. Like, I really didn't like it at first, but after a few listens, I kind of forgave it, and yeah, it's not as bad, but it's still a hell of a boring and mundane track, because there are literally no beat on this track. It's basically bare pianos with Beyonce singing in a very angelic voice on the hook, and Beyonce singing on this track is actually really good. But then Eminem comes in with the angry staccato flow, and he sounds like a tone-deaf robot, and it just creates such a weird but yet boring and mundane sound for the track, and I just have to give it a 5 out of 10. The second track, wow, okay. So on Walk on Water, Eminem kind of reflects on his fall from grace, and he kind of reflects on his fame and relevancy and popularity and so forth. And then for the rest of the album, Eminem kind of proves that point, that he had fallen from grace. The second track, Believe, is a wow. It's just, I started from the bottom like a snowman. It's slightly more aggressive, but then it's not that aggressive or fiery. It has this subtle, skippy trap beat that is really boring and formulaic, and it's just what it is. It doesn't change with any dynamic or anything. And Eminem's staccato, locked, trapped flow is just so gross on this track, because his flow together with this robotic beat, it really doesn't work. So it just sounds super gross, super disgusting, and it just sounds corny as ever. I have to give it a 2 out of 10. Yeah, which is probably the lowest score I have given to an Eminem track so far. You know, I should have lowered the score for Puke from Encore as well. Anyway, the third track, Chloraseptic, is even worse. It features Fresher, which is the only rapper featured on this album, but yet he doesn't rap on this track. He just handles the hook, and the beginning of the track is so corny and cheesy. It's very slow and dragged. Instinctive nature, English language, and it has this subtle lo-fi trap beat in the background, which is again very boring, very mundane. Plus the hook, the sound mixing, it's such a garbage track. I have to give it a 1 to a 2 out of 10 as well.
It's what it's like when the mic is out. Cause I'm tearing at your flesh with it. To your larynx and neck is slit. With these lyrics weapons expert with.
And then we have Untouchable, which is also a lead-up single to this album, Revival. And this track is basically it basically has a Chi Chang Chong sample with the playful guitars, but, come to think of it, the sampling is very lazy and the guitars doesn't, combine well with the flow and the beat. And overall, it just sounds kind of cheap, although I guess it's a little fun, a little groovy, but it's still a very, very trash mixing. It's like the musical style of a rap track about white guilt. It's so bad I have to wear my cringe glasses for this. White boy, you're a rock star! It's very gross and preachy, and the hook is extremely hideous, and it just ruined a Chi Chang Chong song. 4 out of 10. And then the next track, it goes to River, featuring Ed Sheeran, out of all people, of course. And it's just another cringy, melodramatic ballad. And again, it's like I Love the Way You Lie. It's about relationship, but it's very broken. It's full of lies and hatred. If you don't have trust, you're fucked, says Ed Sheeran. And wow, it's such a cringy, overdramatic track. It's oh wow, it's so powerful. Wow, it's so sad. Wow. And there's a line here saying, actually, I shit on my last chick, and she has what my ex lacks. Get it? Ex lacks? So funny. The next track is Remind Me, after a little intro. And it is basically another playful guitar sample track, and this time he samples I Love Rock and Roll. And once again, he kind of ruined the song. It's basically this ugly rap rock tune that is just going nowhere but ugliness, I guess. And there's a line. I have to wear my glasses for this. And then there's a line that is extremely sickening, stomach-churning, and gross. Your booty is heavy duty, like diarrhea.
Cause you're just as nasty, so that's appropriate. That's why I love you. Cause you remind me of me.
Although admittedly it's a slightly groovy, it's a little fun, but it's still a very dumb track. And the reason why this track doesn't work, but the more rockier tracks on MMLP2 really works, is because on MMLP2, Eminem really put a lot of thought and effort into it, and it's way more humble, and it doesn't try to be this gross and this hideous. But this is just bad, man. This is just bad. I'm gonna be generous, and I'm gonna give 5 out of 10. The next track is Like Home, featuring Alicia Keys, which is basically this anti-Trump anthem that tries way too hard to be meaningful or impactful. And it has some of the corniest bars from Eminem. And we have some overblown kick drums and cheap-ass MIDI pianos in the track. But still, overall, it's such a boring and forgettable pop rap tune that's really gross. And again, the bars on this track, it's so trash. Eminem literally rhymed a Nazi with not Nazi. And there's a line saying, "'Cause this type of pickle that we're in's hard to deal. 'Cause you know, the pickles. Dill pickles. Right? Ha 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 ha. I'm giving Like Home a 3 out of 10. The next track is Bad Husband, featuring ex-ambassador. The opening of the track is really, really awkward. And again, it has a subtle but yet over-dramatic beat, and Eminem being so random. It's like eye to eye. And the content of the track, it's like an excuse for Eminem to say that, yes, I'm a really bad husband, but I'm a really, really great father. Damn! And, wow. Although Eminem apologized to Kim, again, kinda, which is actually, kinda cool to settle the beef down, but still, the hook is so gross. A good father, a good dad, but a bad husband. A 2 out of 10 for this track. Oh my gosh. Next up, we have Tragic Endings, which sounds like a demo because the mixing is just pure trash. We have some blooming pianos in the beginning, which is actually kind of interesting. But wow, the chorus, it sounds like cheap 90s pop song. Like, and it's sung with such a young, high-pitched voice that tries to be sexy, tries to be seductive. And I know it's Eminem used like this method of chorus a lot throughout his catalog, but this is just trash chorus, man. Trash chorus. And then we have Framed, which is actually a decent track, a little shining light in the sea of trash of this track list.
Her TV blares, can't hear the creaking stairs. She's unaware in no underwear, she's completely bare. Turns around and screams, I remember distinctly. I said I'm here to do sink repairs.
And we have the very zany flow that kind of reminds me of 3 a.m., which is the opening track from his album Relapse. And the lyrics are actually kind of funny. He kind of has this psychopath, killer, serial killer persona in this track, which is actually kind of interesting. But the chorus is really kind of crappy and kind of dragged by Eminem's performance. I am framed. Even though I kind of like the eerie, spooky strings on this track, I still don't think that this track is super great, but hey, it's not that bad. Let's just admit it. I'm giving this track a 7 out of 10. And then we dive back down to the sea of trash with Nowhere Fast featuring Kalani. And this track, there's nothing special about this track. Literally nothing. And again, it's another boring, forgettable pop rap tune. You know, you get these MIDI strings and some tone-deaf robot flow on this track, which is really trash, really garbage. And like in the 3-minute mark, the singing becomes even trashier. Like the mixing is so bad. And like Eminem singing in Haley's song back in the Eminem show is actually not bad. Not great, but not terrible. But like, I don't know since when, but he realized that he sound better somehow with his vocals being layered on top of each other again and again and again. So he does this on this track, except even crazier. Like, his vocals are so rough, so trashy, so forced. It's so hard to listen to into the ears. I have to give it a 3 out of 10. And then we have Heat, which is basically this country rock rap tune. The hook is extremely tedious, and the bars are some of the worst bars Eminem had ever spit, ever. Like, even worse than, like, Fack. Here we go. From the first time I saw you, I actually said to myself, I gotta meet her. Like a taxi. Meet her. Get it? I asked, does she want a computer lodged in her vagina? said my dick is an apple. She said, put it in cider. Oh, okay. I just bodied that beat so that the hole must have been dug, cause it just died like food coloring does. Okay, literally the next line. So let's get turned like a shish kebab, twisted ma like an air conditioning knob. And this is honestly one of the worst. Just gonna have to put them other chumps on the back burner. You got buns, I got Asperger's. So yeah, I'm giving 2 or 3 out of 10 for heat. Next up is offended, which is actually not offensive, not really. And instead of being edgy, it actually sounds very childish. And the beat sounds like a cheap demo beat downloaded from YouTube with these random horns bursting in the background. Like what is that? However, Eminem's bars on this track is actually decent, and it's not that bad. There's a line saying that his competition can't see him because they don't own a mirror. That is actually a pretty good line. Way better compared to those on the previous track, but yeah. And on the last verse, it's actually really, really fast. In fact, I think it's even faster than the fast part in Rap God. For the entire verse, of course, but still instantaneously, it still sounds like Rap God is slightly faster than Offended. But yeah, the reason why no one cares about the last verse on Offended is because this is a trash song.
But it's embedded in my head, I never hunted for the bread and butter. What I wanted was to be the one that they were scared of, but I'm never gonna get the credit for the sweat and blood I put up independent. When I'm dead, I wonder will they put me on a pedestal.
And even though the performance is actually not bad, it's still kind of underwhelming. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. And then we have Need Me featuring Pink, but it actually is more like Pink featuring Eminem, because on this track, Pink appears even more than Eminem. Like Eminem, the artist of the album. And he only appears very shortly in the middle of the track, and his rapping isn't even that good. And let's just talk about Pink's performance on this track. Like, if you like Pink, good for you. But Pink's performance on this track is your generic, average, overdramatic, cliche, cheap pop tune. Maybe that's why I come back. Oh, and still, despite the trashy pop performance on this track, it's still not as bad as Eminem's performance, because again, like, given how expressive and wannabe soulful the pop part of the track is trying to sound, Eminem's performance here is yet so gross, so disgusting, so staccato, and just so powerless and toothless, and it's just a fucking gross song. Overall, I have to give a 1 out of 10. I'm super disappointed with this track, not gonna lie. Alright, next script. Like, I used up an entire A5, and I still need a little more space. Alright, the next track is In Your Head, which is not like a super terrible track. It's just that I'm pissed at the track because it ruined one of the best Cranberry songs, Zombies. And like, because the phrase in your head is repeated in the chorus, this track is titled In Your Head, like, literally. And wow, like, the sampling is so lazy. It's so lazy. It's literally the track slapped on top of Eminem's rapping with a little drum beat to create some sort of beat so that it's compatible for the rap genre. But other than that, it's such lazy sampling. It's unbearable. And I'm just kind of pissed about this track. The production of this track is just so, I guess, I don't know what word to describe. I'm giving a 2 out of 10 for In Your Head. And then the next track is Castle, which is actually easily the best track on the album.
You'll be coming out of mommy's stomach soon. I better do something quick if I'ma be able to support you. I can barely support me, but as long as you're healthy, that's all that matters for the time being. But obviously,
the female singer is actually not bad, even though she's singing so closely to the mic. First of all, she sounds Asian for some reason. I don't know why. Second of all, she sounds like the same singer from 25 to Life and Almost Famous from Recovery. Like, she's just so close to the mic. It's you can hear her breathing, literally. But I kind of like the eerie, spooky hook on this thing, and I kind of like the icy, grand guitars. And overall, Eminem's performance is actually kind of heartfelt and emotional on this track. And overall, the tone of this track kind of brings a nostalgia to it, which is actually pretty nice. I'm actually giving it an 8 out of 10. The album ending is a very, very weak ending to an Eminem album. First of all, you get this faint Leon Rimes singing in the back, so faint that it's not even important to this track. It just sounds like an additional sound effect. And then the drums, they kind of remind me of that new A Perfect Circle song, The Doomed. But again, Revival was released before The Doomed, so I don't know how. Or maybe the track samples from another drum track, I don't know. But anyway, this drum track, it sounds like I've heard it somewhere before. But still, the vocals kind of sounds off, and yeah, it's still such a weak album ending. It's very underwhelming. I kind of like how heart-trenching and gut-trenching the performance of Eminem is, and it's kind of moving actually, but still, like on this track, he's like, it sounds like he's dying, like literally, like his description is like he's dying on the deathbed, but yet he still throws all these corny, trashy puns. It's like he's dying on the deathbed in the hospital, and yet he's throwing another pun, and everyone around him is like, whoa, ha ha ha. It's so tasteless. It's so untasteful. And then like this track also portrays Eminem like as he's swallowing pills and about to die, and then suddenly everything reverses itself and the pills gets vomited into the toilet, and the song and overall the album just ends off with a toilet flush. And that's just very fitting for the album, because this album is truly shit. Like, I mean, there are a few acceptable and tolerable moments on this album, and you know, Eminem, he's not like absolute trash, but still, need I say more? The hooks are garbage, trashed, forced. The beats, they are very cheap. The choruses, the verses, they are very corny, cliché. The performance is very weird and off-putting. The staccato, angry flow is so gross and disgusting in a lot of these tracks. The performance by other guest features on this track is not so great either. It's kind of boring, generic, average. And overall, this album is, if anything, disappointing. Very, very disappointing. So, damn. The best track is Castle, and the worst, Need Me. I'm giving Eminem's Revival a 3 out of 10. So, have you listened to Eminem's Revival? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate it? Like if you like it, hate if you hate it, and subscribe if you want more. Yeah.